Hi, so guys, welcome back. For those of you who stuck around, well, yeah. Um, please let me know if you can hear me and everything is okay, because I wasn't aware that we have started, so yay. Thank you for those of you who already suggested the move. So yeah, okay, great. I'm live and didn't know it. Perfect. Alright, so this one is a game between Shirov and Alexander Motliev. They're both Super Grandmasters, 26 plus, and so yeah. Yep, for those of you who suggested Rook h7, you were correct. Mainly because if take, this is mate. And so I'm gonna take a second to go back and show you how we got to this position. So we got to this position because in the game, black played queen e8, rook h1 was the nice move, which is kind of already preparing for the attack. Then queen f6, and this bishop d7. Because if you were not going to play bishop d7, you still have a very pleasant position, but the problem is that black is kind of covering it up. So it's after bishop d7 you get the chance to play this beautiful rook h7. So thank you for those of you who told me that. Alright, next one. This one is also white's to move. Black's last move was bringing the queen to f8. Okay, yes, queen h7 is the correct move. Whoa. Yep. And the point is, after queen h7, if black takes, you have this double check and then mate. So thank you for that. So the question is, how should white use the power of his active pieces? So please think about that question and tell me what would you want to do. Because you can see white's pieces are super active, so there should be something there. Whoa, sorry. Okay, so I have a suggestion of bishop f5 so far. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, don't just give me one-liner. Tell me, like, bishop f5, what do you think white should do, what do you think black should do, and so on. Okay, so you think black, the back rank is super weak and you want to use that. Cool. Alright, so let's see. Yep, you are right. The back rank is super weak. So the idea is, instead of bishop takes f5, queen takes f5 is the important move. So after queen f5, the problem is queen takes f5, bishop takes, and black loses the knight. So if black were to give queen g6 check. So please tell me, what would you do after queen g6 check? And yep. So after the check, just think about, you logically only have two moves. So just make sure you think about both of those moves and decide which one is better. But I think either one at this position, you are kind of winning, regardless of which move to play. So okay, I'm gonna show you. For example, if you take queen g6, take and knight h4, this is winning. The other one that's just more efficient is king f1. And the idea is, if you take this, well, mate, and if you take with queen and just take back with the bishop, and you just can't hold everything together, because rook c8 is happening, queen f8 is happening, queen c8 is happening. There's a lot of things that's happening, and you just can't keep it all in check. So next one is black to move, and the question is, black's positional advantage is kind of overwhelming, but how can you convert it into a full point? Okay, so I'm getting suggestions of queen h2. But maybe give me a full line. So if queen h2, what if queen h2, queen takes back h2? It's good that you're thinking about checks and takes, but be sure to be very careful of what your opponent has to do too. Okay, so I'm getting bishop d4 and bishop h2. Personally, I kind of like the idea of bishop h2. So let's see what they played. Bishop h2. So the idea is, if you take, I give you check, and you have to play king g1. So now you get this nasty queen e3, and the problem is, after taking, queen e2, and then you lose the rook. And most likely the game, because rook d3 is coming, and this is just, your king is super weak. So this one is white to move, and the question is, white needs extra power because the attack, to complete the attack. So how can you fuel it up? make sure to keep thinking about checks and takes, and just be aware of your position, basically. So g5 is a very nice idea. I like it. Just make sure you calculate everything, because rook h3 could be happening. Or maybe g5, maybe there's like a queen e6, if it works. Well, that's the question. Do you think it works? Yeah. Okay, so everybody, well, a lot of people are going for g5, which I think it is correct. I was trying to throw you off a little bit, because g5, if you were to play queen e6, there is this queen f6 check, I would think. Take, and you win the rook. And for example, if for example rook h3, you simply have queen f6, and just you take back and you're threatening mate. And yeah, even if the king tries to run away, you still have this powerful c4, because now, if regardless of where the queen goes, you are going to win. Either take the rook or mate. Let's look at one final, queen b7, and even in this you will have to just take on d6, and you're threatening a rook h8 mate. So this one is black, and basically how can black keep this game and try to get something out of it? So, fun fact, this game was played in 2002 by one and only Yasser Seirawan. He was black, so yeah. What do you think Yasser did? Okay, so we are getting questions and suggestions on queen e4. Let's see. Preferably give me like a few move suggestion, like if queen e4, like, well, we can see that white can't take, but even when white can't take, well, what can white do? Something like that. Or if there's nothing for white to do, just be like, yep, there's nothing for white to do. So, yep, queen e4 is the right idea, because if you take, you just get mated, and if you don't take, your queen just simply doesn't have anywhere to go. Let's say queen f3, you just take it, and the queen can't just keep protecting the rook. So yeah, for this one you didn't really need to give me a full line, because it was kind of self-explained. I hope that's a word. But yeah, so ideally give me lines moving forward. Alright, so this one, the question is, white has gathered many pieces around the enemy king. How can he conclude this attack now? So, it is white to move, and basically how can you win? Okay, I'm getting a lot of good suggestions of rook g7 check and, for example, rook b1. Um, Again, preferably give me a line like if, for example, if rook b1, what do you think white should do? Black should do? Okay, so we have between rook b1 and rook g7. So rook b1 is better because you kind of need to distract the queen away, and after queen b1 you get take and then the mate. And for example, if black tries to give you a check, you just have king g2. Whereas if you were to take over here first, then rook g7, and I don't really see a clear win for white. So yeah, make sure to always think about which one is the more forced and the most clear way to win. Alright, so now the question is, white has gathered many pieces around the enemy king. How can you conclude the attack now? So well, to answer Anna, after rook b1, knight f2, king g2, you're still holding. Okay, so in this position, I still don't really have suggestions. Is this Capablanca's game? No, unfortunately, I wish it was, but most of these games happened in 2002. Okay, so I'm getting suggestions of rook d8, knight h6 check, and knight takes g7. Or bishop takes g7. So I would recommend to first think about the check, for example, the knight h7, knight h6 one. So if you know for sure that that doesn't work, then okay, think about other moves such as rook d8. Okay, so I'm getting a bishop g7 and then rook d8. Alright, let's see. Yep, so knight g7 actually is a bad move because the problem with knight g7 is it's wrong because what if you take? Wait, hold on. I don't speak German and I have German explanations here, so yay me. Oh, the problem is that at the end of the line you're not gonna have the knight h6 check. See, in bishop g7 after take rook d8 knight to try and protect, you have this awesome knight h6. But with knight g7, at the end of the line you won't have that knight h6. So yeah, this was pretty beautiful. One thing, I think I went a little too fast over here. After rook d8, for those of you who found knight e6, congratulations, it is not easy to find. And for those of you who found queen takes g7, another set of congratulations, bravo. And alright, so this one actually was kind of pretty. I will definitely show it to some of my friends too. Okay, so basically the question is, do you see the winning strike for white? Okay, I'm getting suggestions of rook take b7 check. So preferably give me a full line, like rook takes b7. What if king takes b7? So e7 is another move that you should definitely think about, because e7 you're gonna make a queen, and if bishop takes queen g7, and you are super winning. So yeah, just rook b7, king b7, rook b1, king c7, queen b8. Okay, cool. Yeah, I honestly think e7 also could work, but let's see. Yep, rook b7. The idea is very simple. You take, check, and mates like this. Even if you were to c7 instead of king a6, queen b8 as mentioned in the chat. So yeah, very well done. This one is black to move and try to find the winning move, please. Alright, so I'm getting ideas of queen takes g2 check. If bishop g2, then rook d1. I like it. Well, what do you think happens after rook d1? Because if rook d1, there are some moves that you should think about. One of them should be bishop e1 check, because bishop e1 to stop the check and open like an airway for king. Another one is king h2. But after king h2, knight g4 kind of finishes the game off, right? So yeah, just make sure you think about all of these before. Alright. So it is a little bit easier to think about rook d1 first. And the idea is kind of simple. If you take it, you're mate. If you don't take it and play bishop e1, I just take it, and I just want a piece, so I'm just gonna hang around and just enjoy my extra piece. And if you were to play king h2, now this idea of queen g2 works, because after queen g2, you get knight g4 mate. So for those of you who suggested queen g2 first, you had the right idea but the wrong move order, because preferably you would want to have the chance to keep as many pieces as possible. So instead of giving up your queen, you would try to give up your rook first. So, make sense? First move should be rook d1. So, basically, black's last move was, kind of careless. So, white wants to try and take advantage of it. And yeah. The first thing I think you should think about is what are the checks possible and what are the weaknesses in the position. Because if there are too many weaknesses, then you can try to start exploiting them. Okay, so I'm getting suggestions such as knight g4 and bishop h6. So I personally like knight g4 a little bit more, just because it's kind of tempting and you are attacking your opponent's knight and knight can't take it, and then now you might have ideas with knight f6, bishop h6, and there's no real good way for black to defend it. The one thing that you should definitely think about is after knight g4, if there is knight e4 or bishop e4 possible. Well, bishop e4 is not possible because knight takes f6 check and then you just take on e4. So knight g4 is a very good move. If you take, it's mate. If you move the rook, it's very nice very nice positional advantage, and mate should be coming up very soon. So in this position, please take a second, 30 seconds, and tell me the right move, the finishing move, please. Think about checks first and then takes, and you shouldn't have to go farther than checks and takes. Well, honestly, I think any of the moves that you're suggesting is going to win, but it's not the most accurate or the most beautiful one. So, I mean, d5 is a good move, bishop takes h6 is a good move. Yes, rook e6 is the move that I was looking for. So it's the shortest way to win, because after take, just check and bishop g6, and yep, that's just get it done. So now it's white to move again, and the question is kind of funny. The question is, black's last move looks reasonable, but in fact it's a very bad slip. How to punish black for it? And just to be clear, the last move that black did was knight to take the knight from f5 to e7. The best move was to play queen d7. Okay, nice. I'm getting good suggestions of queen h5 and knight g5 and bishop h7, so these should be the moves that you are thinking about, but preferably give me a full line. Okay, I just got a full line. Bishop h7, king h7, queen h5, king g8, knight g5. Yeah, I think that should be the most logical way to handle it. Yep. After take, queen h5. Try not to do knight g5 first, because you give your opponent the chance to play king g6. Yeah, and then it just makes things more complicated. And just try never. One of the most important lessons that I've learned playing chess is to never ever give your opponent the chance to try and slip away. And sometimes it's such a basic rule, but we miss it and we think, oh, this is also winning. And yeah, so try to work on yourself to play the most annoying and most forcing moves. So yeah, for example, queen h5 is the best one. King g8, knight g5. So far everything is forced. Basically, the only thing that you would have to decide on is giving this check and taking the queen. And after that, well, it's still a little. You still have to be very careful because you don't want to give your opponent a chance to run away. So that's why you would have to play bishop h6, most forcing moves, and to give this check and just be able to get the piece, basically. Alright, next one. So, all the white pieces are very active. How are you going to use it? While you guys are thinking, if you have any other questions about books, openings, whatever, weather, anything, ask it. Today here in St. Louis the weather was actually pretty nice, a little humid, but I think it might start raining soon because it was just way too humid not to rain. And yeah. Okay, so I'm getting suggestions of knight f5 and queen g7. I like them both, honestly. But which one do you think is the more forceful one? Which one do you think is kind of um, won't let black slip away. Knight c4 is another nice idea. Okay, so knight f5 is the best one, simply because it's kind of the most forceful one, and it's giving the knight is really just the reason that you're gonna win this game. Because if you take it, the problem is that now you get queen g7, as a lot of you suggested, and now after rook f8 you simply just take on f6, and the only way that black can try to delay mate is with queen a3. Now take a minute and find me the best move on how you're gonna win this game, because this is pretty winning. Just you need the one final move, please. Well, rook e7, I mean, a lot of these moves are winning, but it's not the most accurate one. The most accurate one is rook d6. You are simply kind of suffocating the king, and next one you're just taking queen e7. I do think rook a5 is also should work, because rook a5 is also threatening to take the queen, and your queen can't really stay anywhere to defend this. So rook a5 is another nice move. Thank you for suggesting it. Alright, let's do another one. So basically it's black to move. How can you win? So just to give you a little bit of tips, White's last move was bringing the queen to b1, which is a blunder. But the best move was to play c4 here. c4. If the rook takes, just to exchange everything and go to an endgame that is kind of hard to win. But queen b5 was played, so now it's black to move. So yes, I am getting good suggestions of knight c3, and I think that's the move that should do it. Another good move is knight b2. So the thing is, with knight c3, you're kind of giving white room to get away, because white kind of has to take it, you take it, and this is a very strong attack, but it might not be enough, because let's say just king a1, what are you gonna do? Rook b6, let's say queen a4, it's kind of still holding on, and I do believe that it should be good enough attack, but it's a little you have a more accurate way. So knight b2 is that accurate way, and after, let's say, rook b2, you just take c3 and you just win the queen. If the king takes, you just take c3 with the rook. If rook takes, you just take with the queen, and this is kind of just winning on spot. And another thing to think about is if rook just goes away to d2. And again, you have the same idea of rook c2 check and rook c1 and just mate. So yeah, this was a very nice one, because knight c3 is the move that you would keep thinking about. Knight c3 is with check, it's taking, it's opening stuff up, but knight b2 is the most accurate one. I think it's mainly because it's bringing the king out, and you're kind of getting that extra tempi to be able to take it back with the rook, without white being able to take back with the rook. So yeah. This one is white to move, and white's gonna win. So maybe tell me how. How do I prepare opening repertoires? Well, usually when I'm watching a game, I see what I like and what I don't like about it. And if I really like the way that the position turns out, if it feels like it's my style, I try to look more games on it and then look it up with engine and see if I have anything already analyzed, and I just start going from there. What is my style? I really like the positions that kind of helps you have too much space, and then you end up having a lot of positional and tactical chances. So I really like those. So yeah, let's see. We have suggestions of bishop g7 and a lot of bishop g7 and queen g5. So I don't think queen g5 is the most accurate, just because black will have a bunch of checks. So, oops. Let's see. I kind of like bishop g7 more, mainly because bishop g7, this sacrifice is very interesting, because you have to take it, and then you get g8 queen. I also think rook g5 is winning, mainly because if you play king h8, I just have rook g8 and the other one to h1 and just check, and this is mate. And the problem is you have these two good moves of rook g1 and rook and king h8, sorry, making a queen on h8. So let's say you make the queen, take, check, and you just take the queen back. This should be good enough too. So if you're actually winning your queen on the game, that's enough. You don't really necessarily have to look for the crazy mates. Just the one thing that you have to be careful is not to take the knight over here, because that would give your opponent the chance to actually try and save the game by taking check, you have to play king a1, not rook c2. Now if you do bishop g7, which is the most logical move, after take, you make a queen. It's a still nice try, but it's very dangerous and it's not worth it. So honestly, it might be a little hard to calculate from here to here, but from here you can definitely calculate up until rook c2. And when you see rook c2, you should look for another line. Unless this is the only line, then yeah, okay, you have to calculate it. But if you see rook c2, you kind of have to stop here, because now there's this mate threats, and you don't want that. You don't want your opponent to have different mate threats in one. So okay, let's do the one last one. And this one is also white's to move, and the first thing that you see in this position should be how weak the black king is, and that the fact that you've already given up a rook, so that should give you the idea that you should keep checking and sacrificing. This queen on c3 is looking very nicely on the h8 square, right? Time control, I used to like a lot that when the time control was like 20 minutes, like 5 seconds, something like that, just because I wanted to have the time to actually think online. But right now I prefer more rapid games, more like 10-2, 5-2. I'm not the biggest fan of 3-2 because it just feels like it's getting too close to just making moves and flagging the opponent. Okay, so I'm getting ideas of rook h8, knight c4, knight d7. All of them are pretty good. So I think the first thing you should think about is the check, so rook h8. And when you start thinking about rook h8, you immediately, well, black only has two moves, king takes h8 and king g7. First of all, if king takes h8, you give this double check and take the queen. And the position for black is pretty hopeless. So the only other option for black to think about is playing king g7, which also gives up the rook, and now you have the threat of queen h3 and then queen h8. So let's say black tries to play queen d4. In this position, you can simply just exchange the queens and go for eating material, which is perfectly fine. Another thing that I was just thinking about and I found kind of interesting was the idea of maybe knight c6 or knight d7, because if you take, I'm just gonna take your rook, and if you can't really hold this knight. If you play like bishop b5, I just take this knight. So I thought that's interesting too, but I think in the game they played rook e7 and went for the f7 pawn, and this is still very pleasant position, very putting too much pressure, a lot of winning ideas. Yep, it is a good idea to always calculate the checks, captures, and attacks. So yeah, that is all I have for today right now. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and this was a fun tactic, a lot of fun tactics. If you have time and if you didn't watch the endgame that we did an hour ago, go watch that. That was kind of fun too. Yeah, well, until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, wear pretty colors if it makes you happy. Am I supposed to sit or get up? Oh, let me figure out how to end. Oh, I see the red button. Alright, everybody.